single person in the masjid. There's no one in the... When you say wahid, then the meaning would be, there isn't just one in the masjid, there could be more. There's not just one. So you're saying it's not one, it's more. But when you say laysa ahad, then what are you saying? There's absolutely no one in the masjid at all. Ahad is used negatively only. It's not used in a positive sense. It's only used not anyone at all. وَلَا يُشْرِكْ بِعِبَادَةِ رَبِّهِ أَحَدًا. Let no one at all commit shirk with Allah. Not no one at all. So that ahad is an absolute negation. That's where ahad is used. It's not used in a positive. When you want to speak in the positive, you use wahid. When you want to speak in the negative, you use ahad. Especially the exclusive, the absolute kind of negative. That's the first thing. But the thing is, in this surah, ahad is not being used in the negative, it's being used in the positive. So it's already unique. It's not something that normally happens in Arabic. The only other, so ahad is used in the negative. The second place ahad is used is in idafa. Ahadukum, ayawaddu ahadukum. Right? Would any of you like an ya'kula lahma akhihi maytan fakarihtumuhu in Surah Al-Hujurat? Would any of you like, would any one of you like that they would eat the dead flesh of their dead brother, etc. Right? That ahadukum, when it's one of. Now I'm saying idafa, that's the technical term. The English term is one of. So one of them, one of you, one of the Muslims. Ahadul Muslimin, ahadukum, ahaduhuma. Right? So إِمَّا يَبْلُغَنَّ عِنْدَكَ الْكِبَرِ أَحَدُهُمَا أَوْ كِلَاهُمَا. When it's idafa, then you can use ahad. When there's a combination of two, then you can use ahad. By itself, it's only used in the negative. If you want to use it in the positive, you have to add something else to it. It becomes part of something else. One of, or the first of, etc., etc. The only place in Arabic literature where this word is used in the positive, without any further attribution, is Surah Al-IKHLAS. That's it. There's nowhere else. Some oversimplify it and say, ahad is not used for anyone other than Allah. That's not clear enough. Ahad is used for other than Allah. But the word ahad in the positive, without any idafa in it, in that way linguistically, is never ever used for anyone other than Allah. So now, we know the difference between wahid and ahad a little bit. I still haven't clarified it yet. And hopefully before the salah at least I'll get that much across. What is the difference between wahid and ahad? The original word is actually wahd and wahad. There are two variations of it in sarf. Wahad and wahad. And so that word, what does it mean? I'm going to give you the meaning of it from the dictionary. Huwa wahdun munfaridun bi nafsihi. Wahd means someone who is individual by himself. رَجُلٌ وَحَدْ أَيْ لَا يُعْرَفُ نَسَبُهُ وَلَا أَصْلُهُ. A person who is wahad with a waw, is someone whose tribe and his lineage and his origin is not known. That's wahad. But that is used for a person. Allah refuses to even use that because in the language that can be used for a person. So He uses a word for Himself that is not used for any person, ahad, in the positive. And so the word ahad is even you could argue it's the hyperbolized, the enhanced form of the word wahad. Imam Raghib al-Asfahani in his famous book, Mufradatul Quran, even went as far as to say that ahad is a separate root from wahad. Most say that ahad comes from the root origin, waw, ha, and dal. But Imam Raghib says, no, ahad is a separate entity by itself. And I'll give you his definition also. He says, أي المنفرد لا نظير له وليس له معه غيره. There is nothing that can be compared to an ahad. There is a unique, singular, sole entity to which there is no comparison possible, and there is no competitor possible, and there is no antonym or opposite possible. There is nothing possible in terms of any sort of affiliation with this one. The one that has no second is ahad. The one for whom the second is impossible. That's ahad. Now, this word, used for Allah Azza wa Jal, creates, earthquakes in Arab society. They have gods, they believe in gods, but for their gods, there's also another God. I can have my God, and you can have yours. And their concept of Allah is that, Allah is there, but He has, angels He took as daughters, ma'adallah, or the Christian community said He took a son, or the Jewish community, a fraction of them, not all of them, a fraction of them said, Uzair has been taken as a son of Allah, so they attributed sons and daughters to Allah. In Hindu tradition, what do? In some of the Hindu traditions, they say God became the universe, so God is in the bug and in the tree and in the rock and the stone and God is running in my veins and all of this stuff, right? This is similar to American transcendentalism more recently in the late 1800s, early 1900s, right? In American literature also, God is in the tree or in nature or in us, and etc., etc. This idea. But which kind of, and if you do that, if you say anything about Allah Azza wa Jalla that starts comparing Him, or pairing Him or affiliating Him with anything else, what is lost is ahad. And if you separate Allah from all attributions of human beings, you separate Him completely from all attributions that are shared by any creation, then what you get to is ahad. It is a unique concept of the oneness of Allah. This is the concept that even Christians don't agree with, even Jews don't agree with. They don't agree with this concept. They'll say, Huwallahu wahid, fine. When you study their aqidah, when you study their creed, wahid, they will not have a problem. What they have a problem with? Ahad. With ahad. And here, before the salah, at least one part of the word ahad I want to help you understand, inshallah ta'ala, because these are things that have to be clear in our minds. And I don't take a conventional approach to teaching concepts in aqidah and theology, but I do want you to have a basic, easy to understand logical foundation. That even if you don't have the technical terminology, you don't fall into categories of shirk. One of the easiest places where people can be confused is when a word is used for Allah and is also used for us. For example, Allah calls Himself Alim, knowledgeable. Have you ever heard that word being used for a person also? That person is knowledgeable? Sure. Allah calls Himself Hakim, full of wisdom, wise. Have you ever heard the word Hakim being used for a person also? It's possible. Allah says, for example, He says He is Rahim, merciful. Can you describe a person as merciful also? Sami', listening. You can describe a person as listening also. Basir, right? Basir is someone who can see. Allah describes Himself as someone who sees. Can you use that word for a human being also? Yes, you can. This is a problem because now the same word is being used for Allah and the same being used for a human being. Now where's the only word that's only used for Allah and can never be used for a human being as a description? Ahad. That's the word, right? And as-samad, as we'll see. These words are unshared. Everything about this surah is unshared. You will find other attributes of Allah in other surahs. But those attributes, what you'll learn about them is, it's possible that in some way, shape or form, those attributes can also be used for people. Like Allah's name Ra'uf, compassionate, is used in the Quran for the messenger. Bil-mu'minina Ra'uf ar-Rahim. So how do we understand that? How do we clearly understand when a word is being used for Allah and can also be used for other than Allah, how do we not end up doing shirk? What I'd like you to remember is 3 differences. If you remember 3 things, you'll never fall into shirk. The first difference. Let's take one name, so we can use that as a sample, and it works for all the other names of Allah Azza wa Jalla. Let's take the name knowledgeable. Allah is knowledgeable. We say that if that name is being used for Allah, then that power that Allah has, that knowledge that Allah has no beginning and has no ending. The knowledge of Allah has no beginning and no ending. Compare that to my knowledge and your knowledge, or the knowledge of all creation put together. What does it have? It has a beginning and it has an ending. So the first difference is, it's infinite. It has timeless actually. No beginning, no ending. And ours is temporary, timed, caged. That's one big difference. The second difference. Allah's knowledge has no limits. He knows everything. Absolutely everything. There's nothing that He doesn't know. As opposed to your knowledge and my knowledge, what does it necessarily have? Limits. I don't know what's behind this wall. I don't know. I don't know how many heartbeats I have left on this earth. I don't know. I don't know what will happen in the next 30 minutes. I don't have any knowledge. I have knowledge, but I don't have all knowledge, as opposed to Allah who has all knowledge. So the first difference was no beginning and no end, as opposed to me. The second difference is there is no limit to Allah's knowledge, and whereas any other knowledge will have limits. And here's the third and most important difference. This is the third one. The third one is everything I have, every attribute I have, let's talk about knowledge, is not something I own. It was given to me. It's not something I had to begin with. It was given to me. I wasn't born with it. I didn't have it. It was given to me. As opposed to Allah, when you talk about His knowledge, it is His own, and it is not what? It is not given to Him by anyone. It is His own. It is His own. Now think of any attribute. Let's think about the attribute of power. Allah is al-Qawi. You can have a person who's strong, he has some power. But the power of Allah has no beginning and no end. But the power of a person has a beginning and an end. The power of Allah is infinite. It has no limits. It's limitless. But the power of a human being has limits, and it's limited. And then the power of Allah is His own. He didn't get it from anyone else. It's His own. But the power of a human being comes from who? From Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He gets it from Him. You keep these three distinctions in mind, and you will maintain what Allah calls ahad. He cannot be compared. He is unique. لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ. There will never be any attributions or anything compared to Him. This is the remarkable lesson inside this absolutely beautiful, stunning word that Allah uses for Himself in the Quran. قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. Now, Allah put in the word ahad, there is no alif lam. But in the word as-samad, there is alif lam. Allahu samad. We don't say Allahu samadun, we say Allahu as-samad. But when we say ahad, what do we say? Ahadun, we don't say al-ahad, right? So why not put al over there too, and why put al over here? This is a grammatical difference, and it has some rhetorical benefits. The first benefit is, أن المراد هو التنكير على سبيل التعظيم, the Arab would say. That putting the nakira puts an exclamation mark on the statement. He is Allah Ahad. Just think about that. How amazing that is. And that can be done in ancient Arabic with a tanween. So you and I can't do that in English, so I have to raise my volume and pound on the podium and mess up the recording to get that across. What Allah is saying when He says ahad, the power of that word is manifest in that tanween. That's the first thing. The second is that tanween is used conventionally for a khabar. That's the predicate of a sentence. And a khabar is used when someone asks a question. And of course, ahad was the response to a question, who is Allah? And to appropriately answer the question, the alif lam is not there. You have to put the tanween there. So what the second benefit of it is, it addresses it. It's ikhbar. It's giving the news to those who seek this news. Who is this Allah? The thing to know about Him is ahad. And this is the sticking point. This is the one that will get you beatings. This is the one that will get Bilal radiallahu anhu tortured. And the boulders on his chest, and the only words coming out of his mouth are what? Ahad, ahad. Those are the only words coming out of his mouth. This is the point of contention. Saying Allah is not the problem. Even they accepted Allah. They refused to accept ahad. They refused to accept ahad. SubhanAllah. What an amazing word Allah gave us. There's one story I have to share with you. This is, a friend of mine, he's going to hate it because he's going to watch this and he's going to hate me for it. But I'll have to say this. It's a good friend of mine from Arkansas. Took Shahada. I talk about him all the time actually. But I'll tell you again. He was a philosophy major, master's degree in philosophy. Your typical upscale, he calls himself, I was a yuppie, he calls himself. The white guy, white family, his wife is also, Anglo-Saxon, if you will, right? And they lived in Arkansas. She's I think doing a PhD in biomedicine. He did his master's in philosophy. He was a librarian at the university. Very philosophical guy, And part of his philosophy major was philosophy of religion. So he studied all these different religions, including, of course, Islam. So they were both agnosts. You know what agnosts are? We're not sure if there is a God. We're not sure if there's not a God. We're just chilling. That's an agnost, right? So he was an agnost. So he's married to his wife and they have their first son. When they have their son, Tristan, his umbilical cord was tied around his neck several times over. Right? And that's normally what happens when that happens. At childbirth, the child chokes to death. But the child survives. When he sees this happen with his own eyes, he says there has to be a God. There has to be. He says that the agnost leaves agnosticism and says there has to be a God. And so what does he do? He takes his old notes, takes the dust off of his notebook and starts going through his old notes on world religions. Right? So he's taken notes on Catholicism and Protestantism and, various forms of Hinduism and Buddhism and Taoism. Well, there you go, Islam. So he looks at his own notes from years ago on Islam and he reads this. His own writing. This Tawheed thing is awesome. That's what he had written in his own notes, in his own words. This Tawheed thing sounds pretty amazing. And this was his commentary on IKHLAS. Right? And he came to Deen. So he's a principal of an Islamic school now. Alhamdulillah. But, when you study world religions, you will think at face value at face value, what will seem like, yeah, we all believe in one God. It's all the same. They believe in God too. They believe in a merciful God and a powerful God. It will seem to you at face value that yes, we all share one faith. But when it comes to studying Ahad carefully, you will realize how every other religion and every other worldview just starts falling off to the sides. And the only thing left standing is this deen. This La ilaha illallah, this Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. It's unique, even when it comes to belief in God. Your coworker will tell you, yeah, I believe in God too. No. They can believe in some God, yeah. But in Allahu Ahad, not yet. Not yet. And we haven't explored what that really means. I'm just looking at it linguistically right now. Theologically, what does it mean? Psychologically, what does it mean? We haven't even explored that yet. We will, inshallah ta'ala, after the salah. But I want to wrap up with one thing, inshallah ta'ala, which is tied to this, so that you have something to ponder over when we make salah. And hopefully the Imam will grace us with the Surat al-IKHLAS. This idea of Ahad, there's one of the great writers on Islamic theology in Pakistan, actually, Rafi'uddin, Dr. Rafi'uddin, commenting on this surah, said something amazing. And I really appreciated it because I think for modern audiences, this kind of stuff needs to be said and heard. Allah created the human being with the knowledge of Himself. The human being knew already there is this highest ideal, Allah Azza wa Jal. And not just that there is a God and He created us and now we can do whatever we want. No, He's the Rabb, He's the Master. My goal in life is to do what He wants. This is my highest ideal. My greatest accomplishment ever can be that I become His slave. That would be the greatest honor I can have. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his greatest honor, Subhanalladhi asra bi abdihi. He becomes abd of Allah. The slave of Allah is a great honor. That's the goal in life. And Allah pre-programmed that goal inside every single human being. But if you lose sight of that goal, it is like this, you have this thirst, this hunger inside you to fulfill that goal. Allah created you with that. But when your appetite is not filled with healthy food, what do you fill it with? If you don't get the right meal, are you going to say, I'm not going to eat at all? No. When a person is starving and there's no food of their preference, or there's no healthy food, there's even filth, barks of trees, will the human being still start chewing on that when it comes to that? They will. When you lose sight of Allah Azza wa Jal, and that no longer is your goal, then necessarily you will find a replacement. Necessarily. It is necessary to have something you aspire towards. That is the mission of your life. So the one who has found Allah, what happens to them? Inna salati wa nusuki wa mahyaya wa mamati lillahi rabbil alameen. It's very simple for them. The one who has really found Allah, their salah is for Allah, their sacrifices for Allah, their life and their death is now for Allah. The way they live, the way they eat, the way they sleep, what they want to do with their life, their long-term goals, their short-term goals, what are they going to do with their kids, why are they getting an education, where are they going to work, everything is now for Allah, that is their goal. But for the one who doesn't have that goal, they have to find another goal. And in old times there used to be idols, there used to be other religions, you find some other God. But in our times it's become far more pathetic. Far more pathetic. Now you have someone who's obsessed with their body and they're working out 18 hours a day. And their only goal in life is to just keep getting buffer and buffer. It's the only goal. Take steroid and look sharp, stay on top. Keep in shape. Or there's this goal they set with their trainer. I got to do this many reps. Or I got to do this many push-ups. Or I got to bench press this many pounds, etc. That's their goal. That has become their ilah. For a person that their life has become about money. Have you met people? They cannot talk about anything except their work. They can't. Yeah, I work at this company, I do this. And the moment they lose their job, they become suicidal. Because that's all they ever thought about. That's all they ever did with their life. That's all they ever did. That becomes their goal. For some people, it's their children. They live for their children. They do everything for their children. Day and night they think about their children. There is no other thought running in their mind. There is no other goal before them than their children. That is all they run after. When you don't find Him, you will find something else. You will find something else, and you will run after it. And you will give your life to it. And there is no exception among human beings. And today it could be even a slacker. And you could ask me, what about a slacker? You know those kids that play 20 hours of video games a day and don't get off the couch? Well, what is their goal? It is to entertain themselves. It is to fry their brain cells behind a screen. That is their ultimate goal. That is what they want to reach. And they're working hard to attain it every day. Right? That's what it becomes. These are the psychological implications of understanding Tawheed. It is easy to say Allah is one. But is He one in my life? Is He the one for me? Or do I have some other one that I'm running after? Or some other thing that I put before myself? Allah asked this question rhetorically. He says, مَا غَرَّكَ بِرَبِّكَ الْكَرِيمِ. What deluded you from your gracious Master? What was so important to you that you ran after, that you couldn't come after this? Subhanallah. Subhanallah. So when he uses this word, Huwallahu Ahad, its psychological implications, its implications on our attitude towards Allah, and how we think about our life completely changes. Now there is nothing more important to me than making Him happy. Nothing more important to me than Him being pleased with me. Nothing more important to me than He forgiving me. Nothing more important to me that He would talk to me on the Day of Judgment telling me that I'm successful. He will look towards me. I will not be from the ones He turns away from. وَلَا يُكَلِّمُهُمُ اللَّهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. Allah will not talk to them on the Day of Judgment. May Allah not make us from those people. These are some of the psychological implications of just internalizing ahad. Ahad. Just that word. What Allah is saying, this is who Allah is. This is what He's supposed to do. And I want to conclude, because it's time for salah, with the following. This is I can't quote Iqbal because I'm terrible at Urdu, but I'll tell you the meaning of the verse. Okay? Though I like the verse myself. It's poetry. But he says what used to be, he's talking about, it's a poem about Tawheed. It's a poem about Tawheed. And he says what used to be something that burned in the hearts of men, is now a subject of abstract philosophical debate. That's what he says. Now what is Tawheed to us today? Debates. Discussions. Abstract discussions in theology that have no end to them. No end to them. But what it used to be was something that burned inside the hearts. Am I fulfilling the rights of ahad yet? Am I doing justice to that ahad yet? May Allah make us of the people of Tawheed. May Allah give us in our hearts what burned, the likes of which burned in the heart of Ibrahim alayhi salam and the Messenger of Allah and the Sahaba radiallahu anhum ajma'in. We'll continue the dars on Surah Al-IKHLAS after the salah. Barakallahu li wa lakum fil Qur'an al-Hakim wa nafa'ni wa iyyakum bil ayati wa dhikr al-Hakim. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.